welcome to Living Consciousness. We are back on the air, in the chair and on the air, and I want to welcome you all as listeners today. This is Dr. Tracy Covington, and welcome Dr. Kurt Bickford.
Good morning.
We are Living Consciousness, and this is our opportunity to share with you insights on living consciousness, as well as bring you up to speed on our one-day seminars. And our next one-day seminar is coming, next Saturday, a week from today. But we are home from India, and we have some wonderful things to share with you. It was an incredible time. If you do or haven't had a chance yet to tune into our Live from India series, they are still posted through the Spreaker.com system. So just to start today, I wanted to just kind of set the scene. Kurt, if you don't mind giving me 1 second here.
Have as much time as you need.
So well said. We were sitting in Nepal and sitting with a singing bowl master who actually teaches in other countries on the use of singing bowls for healing, meditation, various uses of the singing bowl, and he actually handcrafts them. He had a wall of what he called tourist singing bowls that are basically the ones he didn't make, and then just walls.
Machine made.
Yeah, they were machine made versus the ones he hammered into a singing bowl. And of course, we're the proud owners of a new copper singing bowl. It's beautiful. But in us sitting there, it was amazing because we were at the Buddhanath Stupa, which is a pretty famous one in Nepal, or the stupa in Nepal. And these are some of the shops that circle the stupa. And we're sitting there, and customer after customer came through, and all leaving, of course, with a singing bowl. You can't leave without a singing bowl. And the woman a couple that was in there before us, as we were sitting there kind of waiting for our turn to ask some questions and explore, the different options of singing bowls, she had one on her palm. You hold the bowl, they're metal, and you hold them on the flat part of your palm. And she was mimicking him. He had been tapping it with a mallet and showing how it resonates. And so she was tapping the one in her hand, and he quickly turned to her in the sweetest of voice and said, "Don't do that. You have no practice. Bowl can go away." And I just cracked up, because what he was saying was that basically you could tap it just so, and the thing is going to go flying off your hand and run into all the other singing bowls, and everything will come crashing down. So I just thought there was such spiritual wisdom in that, why do we do these one-day seminars? Why do we do these radio shows? Why do we sit with people as often as have the opportunity to? And it's all about that, because it's without practice, it can go away. It can become distorted truth. Truth can become distorted in such magnificent ways, and without the understanding of what is religious, what is spirituality, what is scientific truth, what is calibrated truth, what is consciousness truth, without the practice, without that connection, I think, to somebody who can walk you through these things, or at least converse or help you contemplate through these things, we lose. The bowl can go away. We can lose our perspective, and I kind of thought that was probably very meaningful for us to share today, and maybe kind of emphasize that was a lot of kind of what we took away from India, is seeing how people really could resonate like a singing bowl, or the bowl could go away.
Yes, well, I think one of the great lessons of India and Nepal is that there is a great deal of devotion that is shown at multiple levels in both cultures. And yet, devotion, while part of the practice, is not the entire practice. And we have to be careful that we're not engaging in practices that are rote, or that are done without devotion and without guidance, because there is a lot of falsehood that is propagated in all aspects of religion, and there is only one truth. So when we start looking at this whole issue of practice, it needs to be guided by the masters, and the masters are the enlightened ones, and that is far different than what is actually shared in the context of religion. And one of the many things we were exposed to is the variation of practice even in ancient religions such as Hinduism and Buddhism. And when we look at the entire spectrum of practice, if you will, what we see is that one's orientation in their devotional path is really evidence of what their level of consciousness is. And so we see different levels of consciousness practicing at the same kind of level regardless of the religion itself. So guided practice, having someone walk you through some of the intricacies will keep the bowl in your hand, as it were.
So I want you to break that down and say it. That was such a great NT statement. But can you break it down on another level? When we talk about the practice of, you said religion, but it's spirituality. It's even our practice of science, even our understanding of all these things is always metered through. I guess I'm going to say it now. Rephrase it. It's metered through this field called consciousness and what our level is at. So can you expand on that?
Well, we can't help but be that which we are, and so what we are is a level of consciousness. We are a temperament, we are an intellect, and we have all of our psychology. And so no matter what we're engaged in, it's all being filtered through those various aspects of self. And you've often heard me say, wherever you go, there you are. And that's because you take you with you. Going to a far-off land doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be an enlightening experience or even a meaningful experience, as the other side of things we've experienced were with being with other tourists and travelers in various sites, not people that we knew, but you overhear conversations and you get to witness their experiencing of various things. And often what we ended up seeing were people who came from their own perspective, often their Western world perspective, and as a result they needed to condemn or criticize what they were seeing in this foreign culture. And they can't help it. It's just who they are. That's not judgment. That's not condemnation. But it is observation. They can't help but be what they are, and nor can you, and nor can I. We are what we are. And so the experience is through that which we are.
So, for example, because I love examples, we're in Nepal. We have just a wonderful guide. It's our first female guide, and she's Hindu. And she's talking of this upcoming festival.
Yes. And
she's speaking of a tradition. And I'm not trying to horrify anybody, but this is very different. This is not happening in India, but it is happening in Nepal for Hindus. So it's not happening in India for Hindus.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's a Nepal thing, and that is that they sacrifice animals at this festival, and it's every year it's done. It's that there's 108 animals that they sacrifice. And so I asked her, and you asked her, we both asked her at different times, without judgment, just to say, well, you speak so much about all life is sacred,
yes,
and that you respect all life, and you can see them doing that. I mean, as we're walking around the stupa, there are dogs everywhere, and yet one way or another, they get fed in the day, and this one dog is curled up in the middle of where everybody's walking. Everybody walks around it. It's all so used to, nobody disturbing him. He's just sleeping. But there's a bowl of water next to him. Somebody's brought him out some water, so when he wakes from his nap, there's water. So, I mean, there is this essence of respect for all life, and yet they sacrifice animals. And the question that we both asked at different times was, how does that coexist? How does that congruent?
Right.
And her answer was, well, it's been done for 2,000 years.
It's tradition.
It's
right.
tradition.
And one might say it's ritual without thought. Because one of the opening statements she made to us when we first met her was she said that we will find, as we found in India, that there is a compassion for all of life. And so in our innocence, we accepted that as meaning all of life, in all circumstances, in all situations.
Yeah.
And we later find out that that reverence for life gets, no pun intended, sacrificed in a traditional way without a lot of thought to its incongruence with the basic tenet of Hinduism. So that was an interesting experience in itself.
Well, and then I had the pleasure on the flight back from Nepal back to Delhi, sitting next to a young gal that was from Nepal, and she actually had studied in the States. I forget the state she was in. It was like...
Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah. It was Pennsylvania. And now in London finishing a master's degree, and it's in...
it's an MBA, I think.
No, it was in social justice.
Oh, yeah, that's right,
and
social justice.
So here's this very young, she's 27, very well educated young woman from Nepal that has done world travel, also lived in Singapore for a while. And so I brought this whole point up to her, and just the inquiry of, what's your input? You know, you're an educated young woman, and what's your thoughts about this, you know, sacrificing of animal in the name of tradition? And of course she had a very different take, and she says, well, you know what, it's interesting because I have had a teacher go through the literature on that, and it states basically you can sacrifice animals, or you can choose an alternative, such as you can chop sugar cane.
Right.
And she says, or you can chop this certain vegetable, and she goes, I don't know how to say it in English, but it's kind of like an eggplant, so it makes a big mess, and you get the same effects. It gives you the same sense of it's a kind of a making the gods pleased. And so there I got that extra part, is that it's all about making the gods pleased with you. And so, you know, she says there's actually animal activists now that are starting up, and they're really bringing to the forefront about contemplating what a traditional practice this is, and that it's not a necessity, and that we can actually really let go of this. And she says, but what's happening is that, just like she says, in other religions where we make promises, or we make prayers to God in the sense of saying, if you will, you know, release or get my son a job, then I will not smoke for 10 days, or I'll stop smoking, or I'll sacrifice 2 goats. And she says it gets all, and I loved how she said this, it gets all entangled, and they don't even know where to stop, and they don't contemplate really what the true meaning behind it was originally.
Well, right, and again, that's an expression of consciousness. That's not all Hindus, and we have to be real clear about that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We say in prayers, I'm going to, I'll stop
right.
smoking, God, if you give my son a job.
This idea that the god or gods need to be appeased, which really is just egoic projection of the human ego.
Otherwise said, if it's a meter through the level of consciousness, higher levels of consciousness don't access God in that manner.
Correct. In fact, there is no appeasing God.
There's no need for a God to be appeased.
Correct.
Okay. So, you know, that's that point about wherever you go, there you are. And again, how quickly we can distort and misalign with what the truth originally was spoken.
Well, we have to understand that the enlightened masters, whether we're talking about the unknown authors of the Vedas of Hinduism, or we're talking about Buddha or Jesus, none of them penned their own documents. They did not. Jesus didn't write the Bible. Buddha did not write any scriptures. They taught, and later followers did the writing, and often